I need you to stop what you are doing and listen to me carefully. Not because I think you are foolish, not because I think you are naive, but because I have watched too many genuinely good men, patient men, generous men, men who deserved so much better than what happened to them, get slowly and methodically emptied out by a system they did not even know they were inside of. And I want to be precise about what I mean by that, because this is not the kind of scam you are picturing when you hear that word. I am not talking about a stranger who contacts you from a fake account the day after you joined a dating app and asks you to send $500 to a Bitcoin wallet. You are not that man, and you know it. I am talking about something far more sophisticated and far more painful than that. I am talking about a woman you genuinely like. A woman whose face you have been looking at on a screen for weeks, maybe months. A woman whose voice you know, whose laugh you have memorized, whose family members you have heard about by name. And then one day, not at the beginning, never at the beginning, the first request comes, small enough to feel like the natural human cost of caring about someone who lives far away. And then the next one comes, and the next. And by the time the amounts are large enough to alarm you, you are so emotionally invested, so convinced that what you have with her is real, that alarm feels like a personal betrayal of the connection you have built. I am Amara. I grew up in the province, moved to Cebu City at 18, and I have spent years watching this pattern from a position close enough to understand every single step of it. I built this channel because of one man, 68 years old, kind, generous, retired. He lost everything he had saved over 40 years of working because he believed a woman loved him when she was loving his bank account. I made him a promise. If you want the full truth, the unfiltered, from the inside truth, about money, love, and the Philippines, hit that subscribe button right now, because every video I make is that promise being kept. Let me take you back to the beginning of this story, because the beginning is where everything important happens, and it is never set up the way people imagine. The trap is never a trap in the beginning. In the beginning, it is only warmth, and here is the part that matters most. The warmth almost always precedes the first request by weeks, sometimes months. She is the one who messages first in the morning. She sends you little windows into her daily life, a photo of rain on a tin roof, a short voice note of herself laughing at something her younger brother did at breakfast, a message at 10 at night that says simply, "I was thinking about you and wanted to say goodnight." She asks about your health when you mentioned feeling tired last week. She remembers your doctor's appointment and sends a short message the morning of it that says, "I hope everything goes well today." She asks about your grandchildren by name and remembers which one just started school. All of this feels exactly like what it appears to be, a woman building a real connection with someone she genuinely cares about. And here is the brutally important thing I need you to hold on to. Sometimes it is genuine. Sometimes she does feel something real. But the feeling and the strategy can coexist in the same person and in the same relationship without the woman herself even fully understanding the division. Because in many families here, I will explain exactly how this works in a moment, there is not a clear line between loving someone and using that love to extract resources for the people she is responsible for. The warmth can be real. The plan can also be real. Both things, at the same time. And the result for you, either way, is the same. So the first request arrives, and it is never random. It is calibrated. The amount is close to what she estimates you could handle comfortably without it feeling like a large sacrifice. It is attached to a third party, never to herself directly, because asking for herself would feel too exposed and would activate your skepticism too early. A child, an elderly parent, a sibling who had an accident. It is framed as an emergency because urgency bypasses the slower, more careful parts of your thinking and routes the decision through your emotions instead. And it is accompanied by a specific, practiced note of reluctance and apology. I am so sorry to ask you this. I know this is not your problem. I have been trying to figure out another way for 3 days. Because that apology signals humility and sincerity and costs absolutely nothing to perform. You send the money. Gcash delivers it within minutes. And then you wait. About 3 hours later, maybe a little more, your phone lights up. It is a video call. She is there on the screen, and she looks like she has been crying, but in a grateful way, not a distressed way. She says your name with something in her voice that sounds unmistakably like love. She thanks you 3 times in the first 30 seconds, and then stops talking and just looks at you in a way that makes you feel like the most important person in her entire world. She says, "I do not know what I would do without you." She calls you her blessing. She says her family asks about you, that her mother wants to meet you. And you sit there in your home, wherever you are, and you feel something shift inside you. Not just relief that the emergency is resolved, something bigger than that, a sense of purpose, of being needed and valued and genuinely loved by someone who would not otherwise have survived the week without you. That feeling is not fake. I want you to understand that completely and without condescension. The feeling is entirely real. It is real because it was designed to be real, constructed over weeks to hit the exact emotional frequencies that would make it impossible to question. It is just also true that this feeling is being produced deliberately and skillfully to keep you inside a system that is about to ask for more. Now I need to teach you something about this culture that most foreign men never learn until it is too late, because the mechanism that makes this work is not greed, or not only greed. It is something much older and more culturally embedded than that. We have a concept in Filipino culture called utang na loob. The literal translation is debt of the inner self. The full meaning is something like, if a person does something genuinely significant for you, something that required sacrifice, something that came from real generosity, you carry a deep, almost sacred obligation to reciprocate. Not necessarily with money, with loyalty, with effort, with placing that person above others in your consideration for as long as it takes to balance the debt. This is a beautiful concept when it operates honestly. It is the reason Filipino communities take care of their own in ways that would surprise most Westerners. It is why someone who helped a family 20 years ago is still remembered and honored at every gathering. The concept is real, and it is good. It is one of the things I genuinely love about our culture, the way it binds communities together through reciprocal obligation and loyalty. But here is what happens when it is deliberately weaponized against a foreign man who does not know it exists and has no cultural framework for recognizing it when it is being used on him. Every time you send money, you are being positioned, very carefully and very consciously, as someone who now holds enormous utang na loob from her. She owes you something deep. She is in your debt in a way that creates a powerful, culturally encoded bond of loyalty. And because you can feel the weight of that gratitude coming through the screen, because it is expressed so warmly and so consistently, you begin to feel responsible, invested, accountable. And saying no to the next request does not feel like declining a financial transaction. It feels like withdrawing love from someone who has bonded herself to you. This is not an accident. And beneath that, there is another layer I need you to understand. In the Philippines, particularly in the provinces, the family is not a collection of individuals managing separate lives. It is a collective unit where resources flow toward the greatest need and where a member who brings in income, especially from a wealthy foreign partner, is expected to share that income with the group. There is a family group chat. You are the subject of conversations in it that you will never see and cannot imagine. Not always maliciously. Sometimes the family genuinely does not perceive anything dishonest about what is happening because their cultural framework says that a person in a relationship shares their resources, and that is simply what relationships are. But from your side of the screen, what you experience is an endless, never-resolving stream of need. Because there is always another family member, always another medical bill, another school fee, another electrical problem, another flooding in the province that damaged something, another sibling whose employment fell through. The family is large. The needs are real, genuinely actually real, because poverty in the provinces is not performed. And your money is the solution that removes each individual crisis while doing nothing to change the underlying structure. And there is no natural end to the cycle, because the cycle is the point. The system is not designed to reach resolution. It is designed to keep you necessary, to keep you sending, to keep you feeling like the man whose generosity is the only thing standing between her family and disaster. And as long as you feel that, you will keep sending. That is the whole structure. That is the whole machine. So what do I actually want you to do right now, with everything I have just told you? Because a warning without a tool is just anxiety, and I do not want to make you anxious. I want to make you protected. First, and I need you to receive this as an absolute, not as a guideline you will consider situationally, do not send money to anyone you have not yet met in person. I do not care how long the connection has been going. I do not care how real it feels. I do not care how urgent the emergency sounds or how much genuine feeling seems to be behind the request. Before you have sat across from this person at a real table, in a real country, and felt in your body who they actually are, you do not have enough information to justify financial generosity. What you have is a carefully curated digital impression, and digital impressions are the easiest thing in the world to maintain beautifully for as long as money keeps arriving. The in-person meeting is not just an exciting step in the relationship, it is the entire test. It is the moment when the performance, if there is one, has nowhere to hide. Women who are operating a financial strategy behave differently in person than they do on a screen, in small ways, in subtle ways, but in ways that are absolutely readable if you know what to look for, and if you are not too emotionally compromised by months of investment to see clearly. Second, use the delay test. This is the most important diagnostic tool you have available. The next time a request comes, do not say yes and do not say no. Say, I am so sorry. I am going through some things financially right now, and I am not in a position to help immediately. Give me a few weeks, and I will see what I can do. And then watch what happens. A genuine woman, one who actually cares about you as a person, will immediately apologize for having asked. She will say she should never have put that pressure on you. She will not bring it up again. She will be slightly embarrassed by the whole thing, and she will redirect the relationship back toward connection and conversation. A woman who is working a system will push. She will explain the emergency again, with more detail. She will add emotional weight, tears, fear about what will happen if the money does not arrive in time, a description of the suffering involved that escalates rather than retreats. She will come back to it the next day and the day after that. She will apply gentle, consistent, emotionally intelligent pressure until the resistance erodes. That specific behavior, the escalation instead of the graceful retreat, is the signature of someone who needs the money more than she needs you. And third, and this last one requires honesty from you about your own patterns. Stop using money as proof of love. I say this with real care, not judgment, because I understand why it happens. When you are separated by thousands of miles from someone who seems to care about you, and you want them to know the caring is mutual, sending something tangible feels like an act of love. But what it does in practice, especially in a culture where receiving a gift creates a deep spiritual debt, and where the family is always watching what comes in, is it accelerates a dynamic that needs time and physical reality and in-person experience to develop correctly. The man who books the flight, who shows up, who sits across from her in a real restaurant in a real city and gives her his actual presence and his actual attention and his actual self. That man is worth infinitely more to a genuine woman than the man who has sent 15 transfers and never come. Come first. Send nothing substantial until you have sat with her in person, and you know in your body and not just in your hope that what you are investing in is real. The money is replaceable. Your clarity is what protects you. And the months you spend inside a fiction, believing it, can never be returned. Guard your time, your clarity, and your presence. Those are worth more than anything you could ever wire through Gcash at 3 o'clock in the morning.